Her beauty was her curse. The lighter her skin, the higher the price. Young girls advertised by skin tone and appearance in the markets of New Orleans, bought explicitly to be raped. This is the history of the fancy girls trade, and its human trafficking we buried. Between 1800 and 1865, there existed a system so dark, so profitable, that America has spent 160 years trying to forget it. It wasn't about labor. It wasn't about plantation work. It was about one thing: sexual slavery. And it had a name: the fancy girls trade. Here's what happened. After the United States banned the importation of enslaved Africans in 1808, the domestic slave trade exploded. Traders couldn't bring more Africans from across the ocean, so they created something new, something even more profitable. They began systematically breeding enslaved women, specifically targeting those with lighter skin, straighter hair, European features. The goal was clear: create a commodity designed specifically for forced prostitution. According to the National Museum of African American History and Culture, fancy girls were light-skinned black women purchased explicitly for sexual exploitation at rates 4 to 5 times the price of women field laborers. A woman who might be sold for $200 as a field worker could bring $1,000, $1,500, even $5,000 at a fancy girl auction. The Edmonson sisters, Mary and Emily, were light-skinned young women from Maryland. When they attempted to escape slavery on a ship called the Pearl in 1848, they were captured and transported to New Orleans. The slave traders Bruin and Hill priced them at $1,200 each. That was the market value for their beauty, for their light skin, for their youth. But here's what makes this even darker. The traders didn't hide what they were selling. They advertised it. According to historical records, slave trader Isaac Franklin wrote to his partners about the fancy girls he had in stock, negotiating prices and demanding specific young women be sent to him. One letter shows him writing, "I sold your fancy girl Alice for $800. There is great demand for fancy maids. Will you send her out, or shall I charge you $1,100 for her?" These weren't abstract transactions. They were girls, young girls. One trader, Louis C. Robards from Kentucky, made a specialty of selling light-skinned enslaved girls. He openly advertised their appearance, their manners, their skin tone. He dressed them in elaborate outfits, fine dresses, shoes, earrings, to maximize their market appeal. The traders literally marketed the trauma. New Orleans became the epicenter of this trade. The city's largest hotels held auctions. The St. Louis Hotel, the New Orleans Exchange. These were the marketplace for human beings sold explicitly for sexual purposes. Women were kept in separate quarters from other enslaved people. They were inspected. They were displayed. Their bodies were merchandise. According to historical documents, some fancy girls were the children of rape, born from white slaveholders forcing themselves on enslaved women. Their lighter skin made them more desirable, more profitable. The system created its own supply chain. Rape had become a business model. Louisa Piquet was 14 years old when she was sold at auction in Mobile for $1,500. According to her own testimony, after her purchase, she was immediately instructed to undress so her new owner could verify his investment. She lived with him for 6 years, bearing 4 of his children. She was a child when this began. The scale of this exploitation is staggering. By 1860, mixed-race enslaved people constituted about 10% of the 4 million enslaved people in America. That number didn't come from love. It came from systematic rape. Research suggests that about 1/3 of formerly enslaved women reported having given birth to a child with a white father, or being the child of a white father themselves. 1/3. The average DNA of contemporary African Americans is 24% European, a direct result of centuries of forced sexual slavery. Our very genetics carry the evidence of this trade. But here's what America did with this history. We sanitized it. We buried it. We called it something other than what it was. We gave it a nickname, the fancy girls trade, that made it sound almost elegant, almost acceptable. We erased the word rape. We hid the word trafficking. It wasn't until 2010 that the Edmonson sisters, Mary and Emily, finally had a monument erected in Alexandria, Virginia, a bronze sculpture, 162 years after their suffering. 162 years after their beauty became their curse. Abolitionist Henry Ward Beecher understood what was happening. He staged mock slave auctions in the North, displaying light-skinned enslaved women and girls to shock Northern audiences into understanding. He deliberately chose women with beautiful, fair-skinned appearances because he knew that beauty, that whiteness of appearance, would horrify his audience. The fact that it took seeing girls who looked white for Northerners to care about slavery is its own indictment. One historical account notes, "Slavery permits slave-holding gentlemen to seduce the most friendless and defenseless of women." That's not seduction, that's rape, that's trafficking. This wasn't individual cruelty. This was systematic. This was profitable. This was deliberate. Traders made fortunes. Slave owners collected young women as trophies. Entire fortunes were built on the sexual slavery of light-skinned girls. And we know all of this. It's documented in bills of sale, in traders' letters, in auction records, in the testimony of survivors, in our own genetic code. But we still don't teach it. We still don't speak about it. We still don't name it for what it was: human trafficking, sex trafficking, genocide of a different kind. The fancy girls trade wasn't a footnote to slavery. It was one of the most profitable systems of sexual trafficking in American history. And America's silence about it is complicity. So share this. Tell someone. Because these girls, Mary, Emily, Louisa, Clary, Alice, and thousands whose names were never recorded, deserve to be remembered as trafficking victims, not merchandise. They deserve the world to know what their beauty cost them.